This is one of the biggest problems we see in all hackers' golf swings. Yes, I'm talking about you, and I'm also sometimes talking about myself. Hi everyone, my name is James Robinson. Welcome back to Get Good at Golf. Today kicks off a brand new series, the Weekly Hack. And I do profusely apologise for calling us all hackers, but we do want to help you guys with your ball striking, want to help you guys get good at golf. So if you want to do that, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Today we're talking about wrist angles. Wrist angles are vitally important in the golf swing, and we have a new device to help us. This, guys, is the Hackmotion. There's a link in the description if you want to check that out. I've also done a full review over on my channel today, so go and check that out if you want to see it. But we're talking about how the wrist should work to get you the perfect shaft lean during the golf swing. So you'll see we talk very often about getting a nice forward shaft lean at impact. Generally that de-lofts the club, it helps you get a better strike, and it can help you hit the ball further and of course straighter. What we often see, and the wrist angles are vitally important here, we see a cupping in the wrist angles. We see this movement here. So you can see now I have extension in that left wrist, and that's now adding loft to that club. That would be dynamic loft, which we talk about quite a lot. If I hit you a few shots here to this green and I have extension in that left wrist, you can see it's not a bad shot. It's on target, but it's feathering up there and it's 20 yards short. That's not the shot we want to play. And I'll show you another one just for consistency's sake, because generally what we don't want to see are shots like that. That one's gone to the right because generally what we find is when you do extend that lead wrist, you struggle to control that club face and of course the dynamic loft that it offers. So how can I attack this? How can I change this? Generally, one of the biggest problems we see, one of the biggest issues we see for golfers is telling the difference between feel and real. That's where the Hackmotion can really help. That's where the numbers we're going to discuss can really help as well. So if I now hit the same shot from the same yardage, we're 150 yards out here, generally I want to see much more flexion in that wrist. So if I hit a shot and really flex that wrist or impact, you can see a much better shot drawing in nicely. And if Rob wants to zoom in on that, you'll see that's flag high on the green. So straight away I'm starting to see, to be honest, much more consistent divot patterns here as well, because not only will those wrist angles affect how your club face reacts, it's also going to affect just how we do integrate the club to the ground. I'm going to talk through these numbers in a second, and Chris is going to show you a really, really good simple drill that you can do at home with or without a Hackmotion to help you get these numbers better. So let's see how consistent we can be with this wrist flexion through the ball. An absolute carbon copy there, that's all over the flag actually. But again, that's going to be flag high, so rather than being 20 or 30 yards short, you can see just how consistent those ball flights have been now for distance control. Distance control is key, but also it's key to be able to control that club face, and just by understanding what happens with those wrists, it can really help us do that. Let's have Chris now talk us through that. You've been watching that from afar. What are your thoughts on those, Chris?
So again, obviously numbers we are looking for is really at impact. So we want consistency throughout, we want consistency from setup, which we're going to talk through in coming weeks. We also want to see consistency at the top, but impact is the main thing we're talking about today. And we can see obviously from the first two shots that James hit, we can really see that even when he gets into impact, we've got a little bit of extension still in that wrist. So we can see that in a plus number on the sensor, and then as he's hit the 2 second shots, we've got a little bit flatter. So we've got that forward shaft lean, we've got that wrist again working this way to help us get a little bit more face control, but also get a more penetrating ball flight, more distance, and that's what we want. But let's talk about a drill that you can do now.
And one of the big things I really like about this, I've just been caught on the screen there. Rob, come round and show them, because if I have a nice neutral wrist set in here, I've spoken about the difference between feel and real. So that is a perfectly flat wrist, give or take 1. Now if I want to flex that wrist, you can see just how much that moves, and then you can see if I keep moving that back. So the difference between feel and real for me potentially isn't that great, because I now know what feels real. And that for me is something that money can't buy, but generally it can. So Chris, I'm going to help you give them a bit of a drill that can really help with ball striking and of course accuracy.
So guys, a nice drill for you to do here. If you do have the Hackmotion, you can hear there by James's microphone, you can get a little bit of audio feedback. So if you're doing this at home, just your wife might not be the most happy with that noise constantly in the background, but you can see what kind of wrist angles we are trying to get into there. You can see that that is nice and flat, and if I can get that into impact with a bit of shaft lean, we're going to put plenty of pressure on that. But a drill for you to do at home is obviously to get into that position. You can see that this is my impact position here. I've got forward shaft lean, I've got that face square, and if I go back, I'm still trying to keep consistent that I'm in that position. So I can do all the way back, and as I come down here, I'm trying to get that club working left and keep my wrist in that position. You can see that it went off.
Yeah.
If I go too far, I'm going to get no sound at all. If I then go too far this way, I'll also start to feel I'm too extended, but the club will hit my hands, and this is what
so you physically can't get that noise off when you're doing this drill, which is exactly what we're looking for. If Chris tries to extend that club now, can't until you get to a point where you're going to harm yourself.
Until I can take the club off there. So again, I'd have to be in that position. So this is a nice drill that you can do. Get this set. This is pretty much your impact position. This is what we want to see your wrist position in. And if we had that cooked, we wouldn't be able to get there. You'd see that's what that would do to the club face, and that's the kind of shot we would see. If we start to extend that wrist, we'll start to lose the golf ball to the right, and that's not going to help you get good at golf.